to GRTV, Groton's Right to Vote show. Our goal is to inform Groton voters regarding the charter changes on the ballot November 6, 2018, and encourage you to vote yes. On this show, we have 4 of the members from the recent Charter Revision Commission. Bob Frink, former town councilor; Dan Mello, new to Groton politics and principal at Prince Technical High School in Hartford; Kathy Chase, new to Groton politics and current RTM member; and myself, Rosanne Kotowski, former and current RTM member. Bob, let's start with you. The rules and regulations for revising town charters are contained in the Connecticut state statutes. Can you brief us on what those are?
Sure, Rosanne. Let me just back up a little bit because some people aren't even aware what the charter is in town. We found that out during the petition drive. So a charter, and this happens to be the hard copy version of it. It is available online on the town website. But the lawyers call it our organic law, or otherwise our town's constitution. What it does, it sets out the way our town government is set up. For instance, we have a 9-person town council. It's elected every 2 years. We have a town manager. So we have a town council, town manager form of government. We vote on our town clerk, and the charter also lays out the budget process of how the budget request goes through the town council, the RTM, and that sort of thing. So that's a brief overview of the charter. So getting on to the general statutes, the Charter Revision Commissions are controlled by state law, or otherwise known as the general statutes. In this case, it's Title 7, Municipalities, Chapter 99, Municipal Charters and Special Acts. And in summary, the state law decrees how long the entire process can take, when time's up, so to speak, and where responsibility lies throughout the process. So there's 4 main entities involved, and they are the town council, the commission itself, the town clerk, and the electors. So the town council is the appointing authority, and they assign the members. They set specific dates for the work, for when the work is supposed to be done. They hold at least 2 public hearings, and at the end they vote yes or no on the recommendations. The Charter Revision Commission does the work. Research other communities, seek input from public and staff. We held formal meetings under Robert's rules, so all the work is done through motions and votes. The commission held 2 public hearings, and the commission is responsible for issuing the final report. The town clerk has an important role in keeping the records of all the meetings on tape and in written minutes. And they helped us understand state laws in different areas. For instance, we discussed a 3-year term for the town council, and we were informed that that would run afoul of state laws for electing town councils every 2 years. So that was a big help. The 4th element in this is the electors, and in this case, the electors did come into play because the town council did not approve any of the recommendations and failed to send it to the voters. So the electors, by state statute, can petition the town to get the recommendations on the ballot. That happened. The recommendations are on the ballot, and that's what we're here to talk about today.
Thanks, Bob. Based on that, could you give us some background on how the 2016 Charter Revision Commission got started?
Sure. Looking back, by 2015, there was general community support for a Charter Revision Commission. And the reason I say that is that in 2015, the RTM sent a letter to the town council requesting that they establish a Charter Revision Commission. And that was a pretty bold step by them at that time. And the vote on that letter had only 10 members voting not in favor. The town council then made creation of a Charter Revision Commission one of their goals for their term, and subsequently established a commission in May of 2016, and our first meeting was held on May 23rd. And I have to say that the town council did a very good job in setting up the commission. They had a questionnaire, they sought applicants, they had interviews, and they voted on each member. They really did a very deliberate process on that, so kudos to them on that. So I think the takeaway from all this is that there was and is community support for a charter revision. And based on that, both the RTM and the town council took action to establish one. And recall that the petition received over 2,400 signatures. So that underscores the idea of community support. Means to me the community is looking for change.
Thanks. Kathy, do you have anything to add?
I don't think so.
Okay, Dan?
Oh, outside of the fact that I was delighted to serve on the commission. And as Bob said, certainly the way it was laid out by the council was excellent. The process of interviewing as well as applying.
Thank you. One more question about process. Bob, could you briefly tell us how the commission went about its work for the citizens of Groton?
Sure. So the commission held 31 meetings under the strict procedures of Robert's rules. And one of the first things we did was elect a chair and vice chair. And I mentioned earlier, the meetings were conducted by making motions, seconding the motions or not seconding them, then debating and voting. You had to raise your hand to be recognized. So we had that formality. We interviewed the Groton town manager and the director of finance for Groton in our process. We also received input from the chair of the legislative body of Newtown, Connecticut via telephone. We considered the practices of at least 30 other communities, as well as guidance from organizations like the Government Finance Officers Association and Sacred Heart University. And our final report was reviewed and passed on by 2 town attorneys. So I think the point here is that the 2016 Charter Revision Commission was a deliberate, well-informed effort that fully met state and legal requirements. And I can say that as a diverse group, we did our flat-out best to serve the citizens of Groton over 15 months.
Kathy, do you have anything you want to say about the process?
Yeah, I'd just like to reiterate that there was a lot of research that went into revising this document, and I think we came up with a good document that's in the best interest of all the people of Groton.
Dan?
I'd just like to add that the deliberations themselves were very thoughtful, and people advanced their positions in a very professional manner, and it was well conducted. We had many meetings that went late.
That's true. Okay, starting with you, Kathy, I'd like to know what made you want to get involved on the Charter Revision Commission?
Sure. I have never been involved in politics before. All of my news about the town of Groton came from the newspaper, and I really wanted to get involved. Someday I want to be able to retire, and I'd like to stay in Groton. I've lived here for many years, more than I want to say. And I'd like to be able to stay here, and if the taxes keep increasing, it's going to be impossible. So I really wanted to get involved in that way, and that was, it taught me a lot about how the town works and how it runs. So.
Thank you. Dan?
Well, I wanted to, do my civic duty. For years, I've taught high school in Ledyard, and I taught government and U.S. history, and I thought it was about time that I, put my mouth into a useful manner and participate in local government. And I see the need to be involved in a charter revision because, frankly, the charter itself sets forth the rules that govern the community. And it's a very important process. So I was delighted to have the opportunity to be part of that and serve the community and the people of Groton.
Thank you. Bob?
Yeah, Rosanne, well, there are several reasons why I got involved. As a retired senior citizen, I think I represent those who are on fixed income, so I brought that to the table. And everyone in that status has their own situation, and I have mine, and maybe like a lot of people, I'm starting to feel the pinch of town taxes. On the other hand, I'm a Groton lifer. I'm not. My wife and I are not a couple that we're not going to leave Groton. We're staying here. We've got family in the area, so we're not moving to a cheaper South Carolina or Florida. So So I'm interested in making sure that we can keep Groton affordable. I've also volunteered quite a bit in town government, including Water Pollution Control Authority, the Economic Development Commission, as we mentioned, the Town Council, and I'm currently on the Groton Housing Authority. So I've seen Groton from the inside. From this experience, from all this, I see the need for more transparency in town government, particularly in the area of financial forecasting and reporting. I think it's very healthy to be upfront with citizens on town finances so we can keep taxes predictable and reasonable.
Thank you. Dan, on the Charter Revision Commission, you are a very strong advocate for an unfettered budget referendum. Could you please explain your support for that?
You know, being new to the political realm, it was very interesting to understand how the Groton government was operating. And it seemed to me that there was a small percentage of people that were involved in the budgetary process and the approval of the process. And, you know, some of the discussions led down the path that there wasn't a strong feeling that the people of Groton themselves were quote, capable of voting on the budget because of lack of knowledge and the intricacies of how the budget operates and the positions. I totally disagree with that. I certainly think that the people of Groton should not be insulted in that manner, that they are intelligent, that they're knowledgeable, and they will seek information on the budget, and they are entitled to vote. You know, I know we are representative government. When you talk about true democracy, that's allowing the people to have a say in the process instead of a smaller group on the RTM, and where the government is more tightly controlled by those individuals that have a special interest. Now, we know in the community you have people who are on fixed incomes, like Bob was speaking about in terms of their views on how they're approaching a budget. And you also have people that move into the community, have children, and, you know, support maybe an increase in the budget for the schools. However, the whole community should have a say in determining what the budget will be instead of a group of politically interested individuals, you know, a select group.
Thank you. Kathy, on the Charter Revision Commission, you also are a very strong advocate for a budget referendum. Could you please explain why?
Yes. I think, you know, it goes back to what Dan said. I think that the people who live in Groton and give their hard-earned money to the town of Groton should have a say in how that money is spent. The way the charter has been revised is they will have more input into the budget process prior to it going to a vote.
Definitely.
And so I think you know, when this passes in November, I think the citizens and the people that live here and even new people that come in here it'll be a big difference.
Thank you. One of the reasons that the current budget process is inefficient is that the budget is put together before there is any public input. Bob, could you please outline the budget process in the charter revision proposal that changes all that?
Sure. This is something we spent months on. If you recall, we had a flow chart and really dug into it. So what's new here in the budget process is, first of all, there'll be a publicly available budget development schedule that the Board of Finance will put out by October 30th of each year. And this will communicate to the citizens. They will know when the significant budget decisions will be formulated and decided on, so they can weigh in if and when they want to. This doesn't happen today. The first public involvement with the budget today is at a public hearing sometime in March. So this will be a much earlier notification to the citizens of what's going on in the budget development. After that, the Board of Finance will provide the Town Council and the citizens with a 5-year forecast of expenses and revenues, including revenue required from taxes. So we'll know financially where we are and where we're going before we get too far into the budget process. Then the charter requires that the Town Council provides quantitative budget guidance to the town manager. This is new, too, and very important. That the exact method of guidance we left up to the Town Council, but it'd be something like no more than 1.5%, or pick your number, increase in taxes, or tax increases cannot exceed the rate of growth of the consumer price index. So that's not done today. Today the town council gets whatever the town manager and the Board of Ed puts together, and then they start going through it. Once the town manager and Board of Ed submit their budgets, the Board of Finance will then review them to see if that guidance was met. And if not, they will make recommendations to the town council as to how to meet that guidance. And typically what do the Board of Finances do? They do big picture things like so much more, reduce so much from the town budget, reduce so much from education, reduce so much from capital projects. And then they pass it on to the town council, who makes the final adjustments. Then the town council, they end up with their proposed budget to the town, and it goes to referendum on the third Tuesday in May. So it's on the same day every year, so we can count on it, and it'll be part of our routine, third Tuesday in May. In towns that have a budget referendum, the town leadership seems to get in sync with the citizenry on the budgets, and typically they're passed on the first vote. Sometimes two, rarely more than two. So that's the process from the schedule comes out to when the referendum is on the third Tuesday of May.
Thanks. Kathy, do you have anything to add about the process?
Just pointing out what Bob said about the that citizens will have, a lot of say in how this budget goes together, and I think that's very, very important. And they can ask questions. They can call the town. They can call, anybody, and get information about how that budget is put together. And I think that's going to be a good thing because they know how much they can afford.
Right.
So
Dan?
I think it's important.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's just a more inclusive process, a more complete process, and certainly, that's why you revise the charter. You take a look at the way the town has been functioning in the past, and you see the problems that have been created, and you make those adjustments, and that's what we've done in this case in laying out how this would be handled.
Thank you. More about the Board of Finance. The charter proposal creates a Board of Finance to provide guidance to the town council as well as monitor revenue streams. A Board of Finance is new to Groton but is very common in other towns. It is important for Groton voters to understand the role of the Board of Finance. Bob, could you please start the conversation about the new Board of Finance?
Sure. So the Board of Finance is a 7-person board, one each elected from each of the seven voting districts. And their job is to provide insight and oversight to the town's financial activities. As an elected body, they will report to the citizens of Groton. So they're not a committee of the town council. They don't report to the town manager. They report to us. As I mentioned earlier, they have created a 5-year financial forecast. This town of Greenwich does that, Darien, and it lets you know where you're headed, where you are today with your debt obligations, your labor contract obligations, and you get a good feel of where your taxes are going. So the key is that the Board of Finance will understand the town's financial landscape and communicate it to the citizens. So as when we do our vote on the third Tuesday in May, we'll be informed. So the goal is to make better and more informed financial decisions, such as being aware of the impact of labor contracts, capital projects, maintenance, upkeep of our infrastructure, and education, just to name a few. I see members of the Board of Finance as people who are, for lack of a better word, very happy with number crunching. That in every other community I looked at, also, the boards of finance work very cooperatively with town staff. It's not a competitive environment. They work very collegially with them. So.
Thank you, Kathy.
Yep.
Anything about the Board of Finance?
I think, the number 7 is a good number. It's a doable, workable group of people, as opposed to a larger group. Just looking for the revenue stream, like Bob said, and just keeping an eye on everything in Groton,
Right.
as far as finance goes.
Dan?
Yeah, just to reiterate one point that Bob made about the makeup of the Board of Finance. This would be an elected group, and chances are these would be individuals who have experience in the realm of finances, whether accounting or whatever it may be, and these would be dedicated individuals to keep an eye on the dollars for you, the citizens of Groton, as opposed to the way the charter is structured now, where there is no necessarily outside of the town manager, an expert in the financial piece. And these would be elected individuals who would answer to the people of Groton, which is a good thing.
Thank you. The charter revision proposal supports a bifurcated budget, meaning that Groton voters will vote separately on the Board of Education budget and the Groton Town budget, including capital improvement projects. Considering this is something new to voters, I would like to hear from you why you believe this is important. Bob?
Yeah, bifurcated budget, I think each budget should stand on its own. The town budget and education budgets are for two distinct entities and purposes, and one is twice as large as the other. So, two separate budgets allow us to better understand each investment in each area and what the return on investment ought to be and is.
Definitely.
It's just a good financial process to do that.
Kathy?
I agree with that. When you're voting on the two separate budgets, one could be voted in and one could not be voted in. So it's not going to hold up progress at all, voting separately.
Right.
So.
Dan?
Well, I think the idea of a bifurcated budget too, especially if you're going to referendum, will allow you to determine why the budget was defeated, whether it was the town budget or the education budget, and therefore those issues could be addressed. So, that's the way to go. Once again, it gives the citizens of Groton more of a say in determining how their tax dollars would be spent. Whether they want to support education, that's fine. Whether they want to support the town government, that's fine. But the realization is, we all know that, the education budget is a major force in the community. But it should be up to the people to decide.
Definitely. Before all of you, the Charter Revision Commission proposal eliminates the RTM in favor of a budget referendum. Before all of you speak to this item, I would like to highlight two items. The first is that in the guidance that the Town Council provided for the Charter Revision Commission, most town councilors wanted something to be done with the RTM. They either wanted it eliminated or decreased. Second, the RTM has no authority and cannot vote on wages, salaries, and benefits, which is 80% of the town budget. Since this is a significant change, I would like all of you to explain why you believe that a budget referendum serves the Groton voters better than the RTM budget process. Bob?
Sure. Well, everyone has their reasons, their own reasons for voting on the budget. Mine is that I firmly believe that by putting the budget out to a vote, it will significantly help us separate the wants and needs that we struggle with. And that the result will be spending and taxes that are justified, predictable, and reasonable to most citizens. I don't think we get that today, try as hard as we may. I think the budget referendum really brings in that element of, the town staff and town council need to understand, whatever you're going to propose, you've got to get it past the voters. And so they've got to sell it to us, justify it, and I think that'll work out good.
Excellent. Kathy?
We have, what did we say previously, 16,000?
19.
19,000 registered voters in Groton,
Active.
active voters, versus 41 that vote on the budget now. I mean, those are the odds. So you have 19,000 people that could say what goes on with their money.
Definitely. Dan?
Well, it's interesting, if you look at the whole issue of the RTM, historically, I mean, it is a relic, and, I think may have served the town of Groton fairly well in the past, but certainly its recent history is something that, needs examination with the attendance issues of people at meetings and the way the process works. By the time it does get to the RTM, they can do very little about it. And the budget referendum is a major check on how the politicos will operate in the town. Because, certainly when you do have that 19,000 individuals voting on a budget, even though you may talk about 80% of the budget being salaries and benefits and stuff like that, the bottom line is when they vote against the budget, it has to go back and be adjusted, and it's certainly more of a check than 41 individuals on the RTM, which has kind of served its time.
Thank you. Bob, could you please recap the charter revision highlights?
Sure. So we've talked a lot about what's new, and that's great, but we need to mention and remember that what's also staying the same, and that the town council, town manager, form of government is staying firmly in place. So if and I hope it does, if the new charter is approved on November 2018, that in December 2018, the town council, town manager will still be there doing what they're doing today. And I think it's important to realize that. The other highlights, of course, the budget referendum, new Board of Finance, and as we talked about, elimination of the RTM. And I think that in sum, the increased citizen involvement in town spending, supported by more transparency in town finances, and carried out by more efficient and effective elected bodies, I think is going to be a great way to run the town going forward.
Thank you. I'll start the closing comments. In 2015, the RTM took a bold and visible step to get change moving toward a budget referendum. This was followed by the Town Council, the Charter Revision Commission, and 2,400 Groton voters who signed the petition to get the charter proposal to the voters this November 6, 2018. The most significant part of the charter changes is the budget referendum. Groton voters will now have a direct say in how their hard-earned tax dollars are spent. Other items remain the same, such as Bob just pointed out, as a town manager, town council form of government. A new finance board and a budget referendum are important items that will lead to changes in the town of Groton budget process that provide fiscal responsibility, voter participation, and budget and revenue guidance. Please vote yes on November 6th. Could each of you briefly describe why Groton voters should vote yes for the charter revision changes on November 6th?
Okay, well, I am firmly in favor of these changes. They are well thought out and follow how other towns in Connecticut function. We will not be on the so-called bleeding edge of any of this. There is virtually no risk. So also, if you're in favor of voting on the budget, this may be your one and only chance. So I would definitely ask you to vote yes.
It's true. Kathy?
Well, everyone has their own situation that they live with. You know what you can afford. You will have a say in what you can afford.
Right.
And please vote yes on November 6th.
Dan?
When I reflect on the year and a half we spent, doing this charter revision, I have to admit that the committee members took a bold stance and looked at this charter as carrying us into the 21st century and beyond with some of these changes that are being recommended. And I certainly applaud the members of the commission for doing that, fellow members. And it's certainly for the people of Groton. That's why we're doing this, to make sure that you have a say in voting on the budget, which seems to be the most representative way possible in my mind. So please vote yes on the budget.
Thank you.
And the revision, charter revision.
Bob, could you please let us know the schedule for public information meetings as well as how to get more information?
Sure. So go to our website, grtv2018.org, for more information. You can contact us through the website using the Contact Us form. And if you'd like us to provide more information to you or your group, just request it, and we'll be happy to come and talk to you about the charter revision. We will be going door to door this fall, so you'll be seeing us face to face. And we're going to do everything we can to hold info sessions at the library if they'll allow us to do that. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for watching GRTV, Groton's Right to Vote show, and please vote yes on November 6th.